What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ladies Who Bronche. I am Julissa.
What's up, everybody? This is Skittles, and today in the house we are brunching with my girl Hayley Collins, a former performer turned artist administrator. Hayley Collins, who the fuck are you?
I am a Michigander.
Yes.
I was born and raised in Traverse City, Michigan, a beautiful little sleepy town on Lake Michigan. I met Juan at Westminster Choir College.
Yes, Westminster.
Yes, I spent 3.5 years studying voice performance and decided the last half year that I didn't want to do that anymore.
Nice.
Yeah, at the very end. I remember that.
very end.
That was a tough decision, but
It
it
was hard.
a good decision overall.
It was totally
Yeah.
the right decision. Yeah.
And so from there you went into...
I went into arts administration instead. Held a couple of jobs in Princeton right out of school in that field. And now I am the director of a major nonprofit in New York City, specifically in East Harlem.
Yes.
That provides East Harlem students with access to musical opportunities.
Yes.
Awesome.
Now, so when we're talking about artist administration, we're talking about literally running the people who run shit. So we're talking about like house managers and program coordinators and all that stuff dealing with the arts, right?
Right.
Just because I know when I first heard artist administrator, I was like, what is that?
Yeah. You can do different things. My specific title is Director of Programs and Development. So I'm doing
Fundraising.
I'm doing hiring, firing, budgeting, dealing with the board.
Running stuff.
Things like that. But it's not usually the same job. I have the fortune of doing both. But you can do things like work in theaters. You can do things like manage artists, book things. It's a whole wide world.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of your job?
My favorite part, I really just love being able to give back in that way, and being able to help create this programming for kids who have an upbringing semi-similar to mine, and giving them that access which they wouldn't otherwise have.
Yeah.
Or at least having a small part in giving them that access. So that would be my favorite part. I kind of like to, I don't mind like making decisions and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you think you'd ever see yourself teaching, or you'd much rather just be part of the administrative part of it?
Yeah, I could never be a teacher. I am from a family of teachers, and I don't have the patience. I sometimes don't have the energy. I love those kids, but it's just not something that I can do.
It's really hard. I remember when I was working with young people, also I did leadership programming, and so I would design the programming and then implement it. And like, yes, my favorite part was when they came through the door up until they got really, really unruly, and then I was like, okay, I'm ready to go home. This is too much. So definitely you have to have stamina
Yes.
to work with kids for sure.
Yes.
All right, so you are also a fan of brunch. We have gone to, I've talked about Lemon Jungle a lot.
You're a
Ladies Who
brunch queen. I
Yeah.
peep you on Facebook. I know you're a brunch queen.
I love a good brunch.
You love a good
Yes.
brunch. So the first question we're going to ask you is, what is your favorite brunch plate?
You know, I usually go for the sweeter side of things. So, you know, a good waffle with like the right toppings, some bacon on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have such a bad sweet tooth that even like when I wake up in the morning, I want sugar.
Yeah, like muffins and shit like that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So like in all of New York, because I've been to a lot of brunch places with you, what is top brunch place for you where you can get like the good sweet treat?
Ooh, one of my favorite places that we've been to together a couple of times is Malt House down in
Yes.
Never heard of Malt House.
Soho. Yeah, they have an all-you-can-drink with many options, some different options, and then the food is really good. They have some like, I think it's like cornflake crusted French toast kind of something.
That sounds
the
mad
chicken
good.
and waffle sandwich kind of situation.
Nice.
Yes.
I do like Malt House.
Malt House. I had the chicken and waffles, and the Malt House chicken and waffles is really fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting waffles. We're getting our chicken and waffles. What is your favorite brunch booze?
I think I would go with Bellinis. Especially the way
Yes.
Juan and I make our own
How do you guys make
Bellinis.
them?
Oh, we have a special little ingredient.
Yes.
Tell
The
them.
special ingredient is an entire bottle of vodka.
In
So-
one
so-
cup. No.
In one cup.
So we get
We get a pitcher,
We get a
full
pitcher.
pitcher. We put in our bottle of vodka.
which is like this. How much is this?
Yeah.
What,
Maybe
like
16
16
ounces.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't drink a whole handle. You don't do that.
That's crazy. Usually we stick to like a peach flavored vodka.
Yeah, true. Yes. A
And
flavor.
then-
Like a peach Bellini.
Yeah.
Right.
Then we do
A bottle of champagne, at
a
least one.
full bottle of prosecco.
Yes. And then you add
Look,
peach juice.
Peach juice. Yeah.
To the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's literally like a full 16 ounces of vodka, a full bottle of champagne,
And a
and then a
splash.
splash of peach juice, and you will get functionally fucked up.
Awesome.
Yes.
Functionally until like 2:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And then you'll sleep.
Yeah.
Oof. That I've just learned with myself that after a brunch, I need a nap. There's no way I can live life after brunch. Last weekend, it was my sibling's birthday, and I went to Solomon and Cuff in Harlem, which they have they have banana nut waffles, and you can do it with either fried chicken or fried fish, because it's like a Caribbean place. I did it with the fried fish. It was mad fucking good. And they have either mimosas or rum punch, but by the second rum punch, I was done. Because they have the unlimited, but it costs $25 for 1 hour. And I was like, $25 for 1 hour? That's
a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
I tell
That's
you,
separate from your food.
yes, that's a lot, right?
Okay.
Yo, by the second one I was fucked up, but I had at least 6. So because I was like, all right, I paid $25. I'm about to fucking drink.
Yeah.
Right.
But the food was great, and it looks like one of those places. I'm curious what it's like at night. It looks like they might move tables and people can like dance. The music was great. Like they were playing a really. Anyway,
Yeah.
so Hayley, what was going out to eat like when you were growing up?
You know, it didn't happen a lot for my family. I grew up in a single parent household, my mom and my brother and I. And so going out to eat was like a treat. It was like an event. And it was always really centered around family and talking and good food. Usually my hometown has a lot of amazing restaurants, and thankfully like most of them are half the cost of going out to eat here. But yeah, it was supposed to be like, you know, it was a special thing where you could go out and spend time together as a group.
And what was your favorite like spot to go to?
Ooh, that's hard. There's a spot in my hometown called Sledder's, and it's the oldest tavern in the state, I think. And they had, you know, the very typical bar food, burgers and things like that, but they had salads and fried fish, which is always something we have in living on the lake. And it had a lot of like animal heads around. And one of the traditions there is you would, on your way out, you would kiss the moose. There was like a giant moose. You would step up on the ladder, you kiss the moose. They would like ring a bell and everybody would scream. So that's something that would probably not happen here. But it's something that you remember there.
That's awesome. And so, what is your favorite bochinche topic to talk about over dinner or brunch? Excuse me.
Yeah. I feel like, and Juan can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm kind of the person, even with my college friends and the friends I had growing up, that is kind of connected still in an off way with a lot of different people, social media and things like that. So I feel like when we go out to brunch, what usually happens is I can tell you, you know, so-and-so had like 3 babies and got divorced. And I feel like
it's
and
like
everyone
real bullshit shit.
right, and like half the people at the table will be like, who's that? And everyone else will be like,
me.
oh, yeah, right. Or they'll be like, oh, cool. I think the other thing is I am kind of, something that comes up a lot is I am kind of a reality TV buff. So that kind of stuff comes up pretty often too. You know, kept up with the Kardashians.
She's like
Kardashian queen.
I keep up, you know, what happened on Jersey Shore last week. You know, I'm totally fine with mindless entertainment.
You need it sometimes, especially after work. Let me tell you, nonprofit will drive you up the fucking wall. So I get it.
Yes.
Awesome. So now we're going to move into our Cheers to the Ladies Who, where we shout out people doing dope shit. The first thing, breastfeeding is finally legal in all fucking states. It is mind-boggling to me that is even a thing. Like, why was that so? Especially with how sexualized everything is in this country. Like even down to a Pepsi commercial. Like, you know, back in the day, they want voluptuous, beautiful. Like, everything is tits. Like, tits sell products in this country. And when tits is trying to feed somebody, y'all got a fucking problem because
like the function that they were naturally put on a human body.
Exactly. And so in an article that I was reading, they were saying that some feedback that people were giving was like, oh, just because it's legal now, it doesn't mean that women should just like walk around showing their breasts. It's still a disturbance to those around them.
How?
Because why? Because people can't fathom the sight of a titty because it makes them hard or wet or whatever, and they are uncomfortable with how they are sexually triggered by something that is happening that is natural. So they want to blame it on the women as opposed to taking ownership to the fact that, all right, maybe you're a little hot twat and you just get a little horny or whatever when you see a boob. But there's also a baby attached to that boob. So if you look at it, you know what I mean? Like, what are you really looking at but a baby's head?
Yeah.
So
I saw this. It reminds me of this picture that I saw on Facebook the other day that was going around. Like, you know how some people like screenshot shit and then they'll have a caption over it and then they'll screenshot that and it's a meme. Mm-hmm. It was like a picture of a girl's default picture on Facebook, and her titty was out, and her baby was like mid, like feeding session, looking at the camera, like nipple. So like the titty was stretched. It was a really funny video, or a really funny picture. I laughed at it when I saw it, but then I looked at the caption, and the caption was like, "I am at a loss for words," and it was like in a negative way, and I was like. Yeah, it's not that serious.
It's bullshit. Anyway, I'm just glad it's possible. I don't think I'm going to be having any babies, but if I do, you better fucking believe I'm going to be out in the park like this with a baby on my titty like what? Next cheers goes to my homegirl who is out here fucking killing it, Dominique Fishback from The Deuce. She plays Darlene on The Deuce. She has a new film that's out in theaters, and she just recently had an interview on Backstage Magazine, LA Times. Like, she's out here killing it. And I'm really proud of her. Dominique's story is really incredible, so you should definitely read the articles, but like in a nutshell, she's like a Brooklyn-born hustler. Born in Brooklyn, like had all odds were against her growing up. She found theater through MCC Theater, which is a theater company where we met. And she was one of the most dedicated and one of the hardest workers I knew. Went to Pace University for acting and just like has been killing it ever since. And so I'm so proud of her. She also has a one-woman show called Subverted, which she's done a few times. And whenever it's back up, like I always tell people, you have to go see it. And I hate when people think when you're bigging up your friends, you're just doing it because it's your friend. Right. Dominique is one of those people where I'm like, don't come at me when she's crazy famous, because she's already now like famous. But when she gets more famous, do not look for me and be like, oh, is she giving you tickets to this? Or, oh, no. Everybody is getting turned down. Like, you know what I mean? And it's just like she said on Facebook, she's like, if you don't come see this indie movie that I have going on, do not ask me about anything else that I'm doing artistically. Like, you need to support me now. Do not wait until I'm out here killing it to start supporting me.
She said that?
Yeah.
Bitch, fuck it up. Yeah. Because it really is like something, just to, not to go off on a tangent, but me and Derek from DJ from New York Dose, we're talking about how like he should have basically been the casting director for Latino, because a lot of the people that were there for the video were because of him.
Yeah.
But like my friends, like, I mean, I don't want to say none of my friends showed up because I obviously had a bunch of friends there. But, like, you know, a lot of the people that I had invited myself didn't show up, you know? But for something for him, like, he says that, like, a lot of other people's friends will show up, but his friends won't
Never show up.
What is that about?
Because
like,
people think that they've paid their debt with you just by being your friend. Like, oh, just because I know I'm on call if you have a terrible date and you want to call someone crying, I'm on that list of people, so I don't owe you to show up, which is not, like, cool at all. Like, it's total bullshit thinking. But I do feel like friends have that. I mean, we have that with the podcast. I'm gonna put people on blast right now. There are people who there are people who will say, oh yeah, I listened to this one episode, which is great. You don't want to listen every week, that's fine. Did you hit subscribe? Did you share the link? And not just share the link, did you put a caption on it? Like, there's like little things that you can do that show a bit more of an effort, unless it's a post that you're sharing that I've already written like some long caption and that's included in the shot. But I've seen people sort of like put it like in the middle of whatever and then like share a million other things. And it's like, you know, if you're really going to take the time out, then like maybe just put even an emoji makes a difference on the caption, you know what I mean? And like, obviously, you know, the share is appreciated either way, but there's a lot of people who don't listen every week, or every time they're having a conversation around podcasts in general, they don't think to say, oh, actually, my friend has a podcast, you should listen to it. We have a lot of friends who listen. I'm from the South Bronx. I have a lot of friends that are ratchet. I'm ratchet sometimes. And it's just like, I need to reach some of these ratchet audiences because not everybody's my friend on Facebook. They're not going to see when I post it. I need you to post it. And then the last point on that, clearly I'm passionate. And then the last point to that is like, how is it that I have over 1,000 friends on Facebook? Skittles has over 1,000 friends on Facebook, but we only have like under 150 likes on the actual Bronche page on Facebook, and we've shared it continuously. Like, even something like that, like, just hit like and then mute us. Everyone, just hit like, subscribe, or whatever you want. Be counted in and then mute us if you think that we're annoying. But the support is appreciated. But when we make it, and you know, when me and Skittles are going to all these fancy things that we already do, not in like a boastful way. Like, you meet Skittles, Julissa, Hayley, even you don't have bullshit people here. Like, we're out here working, and so I don't want to hear a goddamn thing when we are moving up and people are like, oh no, you're not invited. Sit down.
Yeah, there's no room in the limo. No excuse either. I mean, social media has made it so easy, and one share, you know.
It takes a second.
It takes a second. But it also helps people reach an entirely new audience. Exactly. I mean, one share of mine, of something from Juan, he's going to hit up people that he would have never, ever known.
Absolutely. I don't know nobody in Michigan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like literally, like, you know what I mean? So, like, those things are important. But anyway, Dominique, shout out to you.
Shout out to you for not only killing it in the game, but also having the balls to, like, call something out and speak out.
Yeah. She's never been the one to have hair on her tongue. That's what I love. So the movie's called Night Comes On. In New York, it's playing in Cinema Village, and it's really dope because they're doing talkbacks after the screening. So definitely check it out. And she is phenomenal. Like, if nothing else, definitely follow this girl because she's gonna blow up really, really soon. So next, cheers. Kid Cudi. So Kid Cudi has reported that he's been feeling a lot better after his battle with depression. I'm so happy to hear that, just because I remember when he first started talking about his depression, and then he had beef with Drake, and then Drake made fun of the fact that he was suffering from depression. And then because he went into rehab and just was trying to take care of himself, and so all that hard work has paid off. I mean, he's young. He's 34. He's young. Like, there's no reason why people of color should not seek out, you know, mental health support, and that's a thing in our community. We don't. And just because he's a superstar doesn't mean that absolves him of falling into depression. So I'm glad that he was able to do so and not afraid to do so publicly. I'm proud of him. And his new album with Kanye West, I know everyone's still mad at Kanye, but the album is really, really dope. And he does really great work on the album. So I'm glad to have Cudi
Someone
back.
who did the same thing this week was Michelle Williams from Destiny's Child.
Yep.
Really?
She also went on, I believe, Instagram and told all of her followers that she was feeling very depressed. She had been fighting that battle her whole life, and she was going to get help. And I think
good for her.
She went in, I think she was there a week. She just came out on the other side of it and said, you know, she's feeling a lot better. Things are looking good. I think it's not at all their obligation to share something like
Absolutely
that.
not.
But for somebody like her who lives what a lot of us would think is kind of a dream life, to still say like sometimes this is really hard for me, and also say like getting help is okay, is really impressive, and I think really helpful.
And I'll just throw in the Demi Lovato thing, because it's not a cheers to, but like even that, like she's battling with that publicly in a way that is hard, and like her fans, she has some really diehard fans, and they're really like worried for her.
I mean, I'm not even gonna lie, I'm concerned about it as well. I can't say that I'm like a huge fan, but I have like followed her career, and I recognize that she is a extreme talent. And just thinking back on, you know, a lot of people have been like, oh well, why don't you show the same sympathy for why didn't you show the same sympathy for Whitney as you did for Demi? And you know, it's unfortunate that Whitney became the butt of a lot of jokes, but we also have to take that experience and act on it, and so
just do
if
differently this time.
If we did wrong for Whitney, we got to do right by
for Demi. Absolutely.
And also, people forget that two different situations. Demi has a team that is actually trying to help her out of it. Whitney's team enabled it.
Yeah, the show. Yeah, they literally put her on camera. I mean, and that should make people care less.
Yeah, but
yeah, it was paraded. It was framed in a completely different
two different situations that still deserve the same amount of compassion and respect.
Yeah. Right.
And
it really shows the importance of having the right people around you, because Demi did have, according to reports, the right team around her, and that's why she had been kind of successful in this battle for so long. But it sounded like she kind of had let those people go and had been with a different crowd, and those people, knowing that Demi Lovato has an addiction, and knowing that she has these struggles and enabling her, you know, they're not the right people to be around. They're not the people, they're not her real friends. And she had those people, and I'm sure they have it in their hearts to help her again. But, you know, you got to make sure you trust the people you surround yourself with.
Absolutely. And I even say that or a lot with Azealia, right? And her, like, people talking about her mental health, and she's openly discussed that, like, you know, she has mental health issues. We all do. You know, but I, like, even as a friend, I'm always like, well, I know I haven't seen or heard from her in a really long time. I just hope that she is still surrounded by all the right people and the people who support her, because that is a trauma in itself. Like, this back and forth that she has with her audience and her peers in her industry, like that too. Like, everybody needs a level of support. But past celebrities, I think that if we're willing to do that with people who don't even know that we exist sometimes, that we could be a bit kinder to each other on the ground.
Yes.
A lot of people do not want to acknowledge drug use as, you know, an issue. A lot of people don't want to acknowledge depression and, you know, just say, oh, you're an attention seeker, or, oh, you know, that's not my fault. You want to waste your money on drugs. And we just have to change that thinking overall. So, but I do hope that she is getting better. It's a close call. You could have lost her.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, so next, cheers to the ladies who Mercury is definitely in retrograde, because this cheers to the ladies who is we keep on diverting into like deeper topics. But cheers to Julissa for hosting the Lime Experience at WeWork Soho on Thursday night.
Yes, I did do that.
The event consisted of a panel of entrepreneurs talking about tips of how to really make your dreams and aspirations come to fruition, and like taking the risks and stuff like that. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Despite your challenges, specifically around being a person of color. So the panel was all people of color, and all different colors: Latinos, Black people, Asians. Like, we went in.
Yeah, it was great. And then there was an uptown artist, his name is Aiden, I believe. He performed a couple of songs, and then it was a lit ass time.
Yes, and him with his Cardi B dancers. He had two of Cardi B dancers with him. It was cute. Honestly, like and you know, the song was a little bit of the second song he did was a bop. Like, I was standing there and I was like, this absolutely sounds like some shit that's gonna be played on Z100 over and over again. So
it was
dope
cute.
event. We do it regularly now, so the next time everyone should come. It's free. It's lit.
Yes, it was great. The drinks were flowing. The person who was making the drinks was beautiful, and there was a dog.
Yeah,
walking around just for you to pet.
With Skittles has photos. Go to Skittles' page. I'm sure he'll post it soon. His photo shoot with someone's dog.
A whole photo shoot. I don't even know whose dog that was.
And also go to Skittles' page, but iTunes, Spotify, anywhere you check.
Literally any streaming service.
Has Latino ready to be streamed and downloaded. Support the man. He is out here killing it. Everybody likes this song. If you don't trust my judgment, trust Rosario Dawson's judgment.
Yo, trust Rosario Dawson's judgment. Shout out to
Absolutely.
Rosario.
Yes. And then the next cheers.
Yes, so the next cheers goes out to the first Black teen author ever to write 3 books used in school districts. This is 15-year-old Essence Moore.
Yes, Essence.
Yeah, and she is the only published African-American teen that has written 3 books that are mandatory to read in several school district curriculums. One being Hillside, New Jersey School District, Brooklyn, New York Charter Schools, and Orange, New Jersey School District. One of her books is called The Middle School Chronicles. And yeah, I think we should just all fucking go check her out. And
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I plan on it now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's not enough like bigging up of everyone's so interested in like digital media that we forget that reading is fundamental and that we do still have authors here.
And it's as a teacher, like, we're losing the skill. I'm not gonna say like the technology is taking over, y'all. Like, we need our kids reading.
Yes. Yes.
So especially if it's coming from someone of their own community, I think it's something definitely to drink to.
Absolutely. All right, and now we are going to get into our Tuta Loca Es, where we call motherfuckers out for doing the most. Nia Wilson, rest in peace. 18-year-old Nia Wilson was boarding a train in Oakland when a white man stabbed her in the neck and wounded her sister as well. And it was a random attack. Nia was rushed to the hospital but didn't make it. Her sister is still alive. What do I say that I haven't already said about every other time they've killed a person of color? And it almost like it feels grotesque to me that I'm now at a loss of words where it literally just feels like I almost want to have like a canned response that I can like shoot out because it's the same sentiment. It's ridiculous. There's people out on the loose who just hate people for who they are and are willing to go as far as killing them. It's happening in high rates. It's not just police, and we're not living in a country that has a model to encourage people to do otherwise.
Right.
Yeah.
And the current climate, the current administration, people like the man who stabbed Nia are feeling more brazen and feeling like there aren't consequences for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people who say, the country's getting crazy. Things are getting out of hand. And it's like, it's always been like this.
Yeah.
But we are now in a time where white supremacy is almost like okay. Like,
yeah,
white supremacists believe that it's okay.
White supremacists are running for offices in certain states.
Right.
Openly.
Right. And they've gotten more confident, they've gotten more brazen because they've seen that half these people have no consequences at all. I think this man will. I think, the police said this is one of the worst things they've ever seen.
Yeah, on camera. There's no way to mix this story as anything but what it is.
Right,
yeah.
But, we've said that before.
Yeah, and then shout out to Anne Hathaway. She posted a status about it where...
It was very touching.
Yeah.
It was on, Instagram or something.
It was on Instagram, and... read it for yourself, but to paraphrase, she basically was saying white people need to start owning the fact that we have privilege and we do not walk around facing the same fear for our life, period. It doesn't matter. You cannot frame it any other way. Black people have it harder in this country, and it's time that we actually fucking do something about it.
Yes.
And it's nice because we need our white allies. We need them to use their platforms, especially.
And I'm gonna need people of color to stop being like, oh, well, why now? Like, no, don't say why now to her. Like, she's using her privilege. This is what we've been asking them to do. So let's encourage her.
Yeah.
So that she and other white people feel empowered to do the same. Like,
absolutely. Right. And also, like, I just feel like, yes, she's a white woman in this country, and she is a celebrity, but like, if we're gonna get on her, so like, are we getting on every white person in the United States right now about it? I don't hear people consistently calling upon every single white person. So when one does come out without being called upon, it's kind of like, it's an act of, being an ally. And sometimes, people take a minute to catch up. What if there's sweatshops in China have been a problem forever, and I'm just now like, ooh, that's a really big problem. Should I start thinking about which companies I buy from, because I don't want to support that? So I can't. So if I said something about it, I'm not allowed to because I'm late. You know what I mean? So we have to we have to take sometimes white people out of that context and remember, like, the act of being an ally is super important, and we need it right now. And if she were to have some sort of history of being like super racist or whatever, then I might be like, girl, what you doing? Right? But Anne Hathaway ain't hurt nobody.
Yeah.
No.
I love Anne Hathaway.
I think Anne Hathaway, though, is one of those public figures, kind of like a Jennifer Lawrence. There's others I can't think of right now, but they start out as America's sweetheart, and then everyone goes, ugh.
And they get tired
I'm
of her.
So tired of this person.
Right.
It's usually a woman. I'm so tired of this quirky woman.
Right.
Get her out of my face. I mean,
she's also like been through it in terms of people saying negative things about her.
People hate it. Yeah, there was like a
at one point
of
where
time.
people hated her.
Even around Les Mis, it was happening where everybody was so over her.
Yes.
Yeah, I love Anne Hathaway.
I think that was like the height of that for her. I have to say, I personally started to like her more after Ocean's 8, if you've seen that.
I have not seen it.
Oh, well, I will say that she most of the movie she plays basically herself, like a heightened version of herself, and it's really funny and charming how she seems kind of in on the joke that we all think she's this annoying person, and she kind of plays that character to the extreme. I encourage you to watch that.
I can't wait to see it.
And so just to also bring it back, so Nia was one girl, but then there was another gentleman in Florida, Marquise McLaughlin, was fatally shot on Thursday over a fight over a parking spot. So he was with his girl and his children, and they had parked in a handicap spot, and there was a dude who was like, hey, you can't park there, and started making a scene, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, the dude ended up shooting him over it. Wow. And because Marquise had pushed the dude, he was able to get away with it under Stand Your Ground.
No.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and that's another, what I just said about Nia applies. And then also, not even just for being black, but a trans woman, Sasha Garden, who was a sex worker, was also killed. And it's really, really unfortunate. And the way these things get reported are so, just like we said it in the last episode, it's so horrific because sometimes they don't even want to identify the body as a woman. You know what I mean? And so,
which, what year are we fucking in? I need everybody to go right now to FX and watch Pose, because that is a representation that transgender people are human beings.
Yeah, she wanted to be a hairstylist, Sasha, and was saving up money, so she can continue her transition, and was just out here. And she had left her, she's from Wisconsin. She had left to move to Orlando. So she was a sex worker, but she would have her house as a safe haven for people. So this is someone who, despite what your feelings are around sex workers, was providing a safe space for other trans women. So it's a loss. It's unfortunate.
Yes.
So our next Loca Es, Ving Rhames got held at gunpoint in front of his own home. He told a story about it, so I'm not exactly sure when it happened, but he was on a radio show, and he was talking about the experience of his neighbors calling the cops, saying that this big black man had just broken into his home, when in reality, it was just him.
Wow.
He was just going home. And then he talked about how, what would have happened if his son opened the door. and it was not a famous black man who opened the door, and they would have thought that that was the person who was breaking and entering.
Right.
Like, would they have shot him on the spot? Would they have tackled him down? Like, just that. And so I just wanted to like bring that up as like a thing. Like, celebrities get the heat too.
Yes.
Celebrities get the heat too. And I think sometimes, even in our own community, we assume that like, oh, well, they got money, they don't care about us. Well, you might think that, but they're not absolved of the same shit that you're dealing with, because at the top there are more white people. We deal with white people, but there's more of them up there. So they don't even feel like, you know, they're not even within their own community. You know what I mean? Anyway, there was that, and then another.
Yeah, so in Pennsylvania, a Pennsylvania man was shot at a local bar for defending a black man who was being
a white man was shot.
Racial slurs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, like, these guys pushed their way through to a bar, like tried to squeeze their way in. It was a couple of guys, and the men who were sitting at the bar got offended, started screaming at the guys. But it was like a couple of them. It was like 3 of them. Only one of them was black, and yet he started going on a racial tirade against the black guy. The bartender or the bar owner kicked the guy out, and then on the surveillance you can see the guy who was kicked out. I think his name was Slayer or something. Sailor. He tries.
I'm keeping my tongue cut. I'm like, that's such a white name.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm like,
yikes.
So he goes outside, and James Sailor. So he goes outside. He tries to get into a truck, but the truck isn't his. So in the surveillance camera, you see him trying to get in the truck. He can't get in. He gets mad, turns around, and shoots his gun. Right? That gunshot was later found in like a field or whatever the fuck is near the bar, right? He then goes to his actual truck and finally gets into the truck. He goes to drive out, and an Uber rider had just pulled in, so he couldn't get out of the parking lot. And that's when Mr. Merrill, his name is Chad Merrill, who was actually defending his friend, came outside. And it's not clear whether there were words exchanged, but lo and behold, truck guy pulls out the gun. James Sailor pulls out his gun and shoots the guy, and it ends up to be a fatal shooting. So,
gun law.
Yeah,
right. That's another thing that has tied a lot of these stories together.
Why don't these savages, yo? No, I don't want to say that. Let me take that back.
Yeah, that's fucking unfortunate. And you know, I think about the civil rights movement, and they were these bus rides that people would take to the South to help like people with reading and help to get like voter registration up. And I cannot remember the name, but there were a group of, I believe, 3 white men who had traveled down and had gotten attacked, and they like found their bodies in a river. I wish I remembered it more accurately, because it is a really important event in civil rights history. But I bring it up to say, like, white allies, like, also, you know what I mean? We also need to defend and protect them as much as our own, because when you're going against your own people in that sort of way, they can also get killed. Now, that's not to say that in certain cases when things happen to them, they might not have more leeway. But if somebody's out to kill them, they're out to kill them, and it's for the same reasons that you're protecting, you know, your own. It's because you're black. They don't believe you have rights, and that person believes you have rights. Well, they can go too. So it's really fucking unfortunate. And rest in peace to him. Another Loca Es here in New York City. So remember when the C train wasn't working this week? Yes. That's because a man pulled himself and his girlfriend into a C train that was coming into the station, and they were both killed. It's not clear if there was one specific argument or something that had happened, but the girl, so she was in her 40s, he was in his 50s. And her father said that the guy clearly had mental health issues. Her family would tell her to stay away from the dude. They didn't think it was a healthy relationship. And so who knows what happened that day, but he decided to take both of their life. And so that's what that delay was about.
It's so crazy, because I think us living in New York, one of their first reactions is, ugh, how am I going to get home today?
Right.
How dare they slow my ride? And then when you find out it's something like that, it's just, it reminds yourself to be kind.
Yeah.
To calm down.
Yeah. Absolutely. Another Tuta Loca Es, we have another allegation. So the chairman and CEO of CBS, Leslie Moonves, don't know how to say your last name. It's Ariana Moonves. Faces. I don't even care. Fuck him. Out here.
Yeah, okay,
so he would force himself onto women, make out with them, grope them, and all this shit. But here's the shit: wolf in sheep's clothing. In the recent months, he's actually become a prominent voice in the Me Too movement, right? And he was in December. He helped found the Commission on Eliminating Sexual Harassment and Advancing Equality in the Workplace. Niggas is slick. Yeah. They think they're slick. They think, oh, everybody saw that, as they call it, the quote-unquote witch hunt. And everybody was like, not me. So they decided that they were going to hide. Right. No, motherfucker. So he got called out, and it's not clear that he hasn't, like, stepped down to my knowledge or anything like that. But he's been accused by 6 women.
I've been seeing people stand up for him kind of as character witnesses, and I think this guy kind of falls perfectly in the nice guy trope. I'm such a nice guy. I couldn't have done anything wrong.
Right.
The article that kind of brought him down, or is starting to bring him down, was by Ronan Farrow, who also led the charge with Harvey Weinstein as well. So that makes me maybe a little more apt to believe it. I almost, like 99.9% of the time, do believe it at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
It's way harder to come out
yeah.
as a victim.
Yeah.
And tell this story.
Than it is to, yeah.
Than it would be to just be quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Why, what benefit would they have?
Yeah.
Besides maybe some money, but most of the time they don't, not most of the time, but a lot of the time they don't even win those kinds of cases anyway.
Yeah.
I'm apt to believe he didn't do it, and part of that is trust no one at this point.
Word. Word. There's just been too many. And then another thing, so the NYPD is reported is still disproportionately busting people of color for marijuana possession. The number is 93%.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yikes is right. And so, of course, it's like weed has continually been like decriminalized in ways here in New York. But the experience of having to be stopped by the police is traumatic, period. Like, especially
Point
nowadays
blank.
where you don't know if you're going to get shot or not.
Listen, the other day I fell asleep on the train and woke up at my stop surrounded by 4 cops, and I thought I was going to shit myself. Like, literally, just in that second, they didn't say shit to me. They were just standing there.
Right.
But the fact that they were standing around me sent my heart into, like, fucking palpitations. So I can't even imagine, like, nah, fuck y'all.
Yeah, and it's not cool. And for weed, bro, like, to me, it's like, how are we living in a country where it's legal in some spots and illegal in others? And it's like, how are we half and half on something like this? How are we not just all on the same page? Either it's legal or it's not legal, and you're going to regulate it regardless. And states are making so much money off of these taxes and being able to rebuild roads. Yo, Colorado got like a makeover. Pretty much. Like highways, all these things. Like literally you'll be driving and you'll see a highway sponsored by like Green, I think Solution or something like that is the name of one of the like weed shops, you know?
Right. If you can't convince these people just based on, can we stop caring about this? Right. We should try to they should at least care about making money.
All of these assholes went to college, and they probably all smoked it in college too.
And you would think because so many white people smoke weed that they would just want it to be legal. But here's the thing. They get away with it more than people of color, obviously, as per these numbers. And I have a theory. I need to do more research on how this works, but there's a lot of black people in jail for charges that are related to weed. And I don't know what happens when it comes completely decriminalized in all 50 states. To the like, can you keep someone in jail for a crime for something that's no longer a crime? I don't know. So that's research I would have to do. But I'm just curious because I'm like,
that's real though.
It's not against like legalizing weed is not bad for white people. They love it. So why isn't it legal? Like, you know what I mean? And so I don't know. Right.
It's just crazy to hold on to something like this when there are so many bigger fish to fry at this point.
Absolutely. You literally have, and this, I'll go into this, Tuta Loca Es. The president of Mexico is literally considering legalizing drugs in the country because of how much violence. The violence has gone up 16% in this year, and it's going up in countries like Colombia as well and Venezuela, all because of drug trade. So at this point, they're so desperate that they're like, only legalizing could potentially be the big bold move in order to get us to safety, because people are getting killed left and right, and it's ridiculous. You know, and so that's not the problem that we have. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, and not that there isn't any violence and stuff around drug dealing here in the United States. I'm just saying, like, that is not our number one problem in this country. And it's working in the states that it's working in. So, like, fuck that shit. But to the president of Mexico doing that, I think that's a really big move. And the United States, of course, has already come out saying they will absolutely not support any country that decides to legalize drugs. So staunchly against this. They will not get any sort of support and stuff from the United States.
We're not supporting anyone right now anyway.
And I was going to say, not that we've been doing right by Mexico anyway.
Right.
But just to throw that out there, FYI. And then... this is another Tuta Loca Es. So Seagram's, the alcohol Seagram's, the heiress, she's been spending the family's fortune on a sex cult. What, like, I just can't imagine having so much money that I'm now like prioritizing something like a sex cult. And she's worth around roughly $200 million. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, and she was busted on racketeering charges along with 3 other members. So and this is part of an ongoing investigation that has been going on. I just saw it and I was just like, how do you even? It's just like another thing that's on the list. I don't even want to spend more time on it. I just wanted to bring it up. Like, this, what the fuck? Next.
The next Tuta Loca goes out to white people not liking to be called white.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, there was this article that was published on Vox.com, which is like saying American white people really hate being called white. And it was because there was like this Twitter poll with a question that says something about increasing diversity. It was like, as you may know, the U.S. Census projections show that the 2,043 African Americans, Latinos, Asians, and other mixed racial and ethnic groups will together be a majority of the population. Do you think the likely impact of this coming demographic change will be mostly positive or mostly negative? And so amongst all Americans, 64% voted positive and 31% voted negative. Amongst Democrats, 85% voted positive and 13% voted negative. And then amongst Republicans, 43% voted positive and 50% voted negative. Now, the reason why apparently this was shocking to the person who wrote this was because they said the question is also notable for its unstated premise that the growing presence of people other than whites in U.S., what else could increase racial diversity mean in a majority white country, is a subject of active political debate. It is not taken for granted as constitutive of a multi-ethnic democracy, but treated as kind of an add-on, an extra feature. Is it working? Maybe we should roll it back. Let's discuss. I don't know. You can go on to Vox.com and read the rest of the article, but I just thought that headline was really funny
fuck you. I don't like living in a country where I need to fear for my life every day. So fucking what? Boo-hoo. Like,
right.
I don't want to be called a nigga. I don't want to be called a spick. I don't want to be called a lot of things that, you know, I get called.
Right. White people. I'm a white person. I'm a white. That is what we are.
Right.
And I feel like if those of us who feel that it's becoming a negative thing, there's a reason and we need to change it. I think the poll you're talking about discusses Democrat versus Republican and things like that. Ultimately, white people make up one of those groups a little more than the others. But at this point, I think in this day and age, with what's going on right now, these kind of centrists and these moderates like have no place at this point either.
Right.
I think those of us who feel more progressive need to be loud. the opposite end of that is, frankly, doing a better job at being louder than the rest of us. That's how we have a President Trump.
Yeah.
Now he's a white.
Is he white?
He's an orange. He's a oompa.
You know, I see that man. And I'm not even gonna get into it.
It's hard to look at it. It's hard to look at his face.
He's not crusty.
Yeah.
He literally looks
Oh, like that other thing. The other day there was a picture on Facebook of him promoting somebody's fucking book in the Oval Office, which is illegal.
Yes.
Like, why is this man breaking all these fucking rules that you
he's
guys
white.
are so? But then when we fucking like call him out on this shit and say, hey, but y'all want to call us out on ABC, but you're doing XYZ,
right?
So okay.
Because he's white, it's okay. Fucking.
It's not even just because he's white. I mean, like I'm saying that as a joke. It's a lot more because he's a crook. And there's a lot of people who either he has something over their head or they're benefiting in some sort of way. And so that.
Right.
But
Olivia Pope, where the fuck you at?
All right. So now let's move into our topic of the day. Why arts? So infusing arts into the lives of young people. Why? Why should we do that? So my question for you, Hayley, as someone who works sort of in this field is like, what are some of the major issues that affect the way our youth learn? Like, what are the things that make you identify, okay, there's a problem here?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the most major things and the thing that I'm fighting for right now is we've become so narrow-minded in terms of what education is. And who gets to be educated and how we educate them. I think the number one issue in education right now is access. You look at what's happening with public schools versus charter schools. I mean, that is a huge issue here in New York City. And
Can you tell us a little bit about what that issue is?
Yeah, so charter schools as a whole are majorly for profit, first of all. So people are getting into education to start making money, which to me is sickening.
Of course.
I think to a lot of us, we feel that way. And charter schools, so now education is a means to make money for probably already rich people. Public education was created so that everyone could be educated. And the charter schools now have an opportunity. They go out, they have money, they advertise. Look at these test scores we get. Look at the education your student is getting. They all, they look so nice. They're wearing these same uniforms. They're sitting here so calmly. And look what we get out of them. But in the meantime, they're picking off kids who are already doing well, who are already achieving, who are already have a leg up because they can afford to go to that school or this school. And then eventually down the line, when they need to fill their slots, they start taking some of
the lotteries.
The lotteries, right. So that's a major issue with charter schools. And not everyone gets the chance to go to a charter school. And when kids leave the public schools, those schools get less money. So a lot of the schools that I work with, their enrollment is down. The city gives them less money. They don't have the ability to help their current students the way they were before. And all of this is because we don't want to make education accessible to everyone. We're not making it accessible to everyone. We're not investing in an integrated public school system. And then in terms of what we teach, right now we're specifically excited by science and math. That is what kids learn, science and math, which makes sense. I mean, working in tech is lucrative. It's exciting at this moment in time. But the arts, sports, languages, those are all parts of being a well-rounded individual and a well-rounded child. And those are the first things to go.
Right.
So these schools that are losing their funding are losing their language learning. They're losing their music classes. They're losing their athletics. So we're also not putting out well-rounded individuals with interests, with excitement, with joy.
Yeah, which goes into like what are the school's goals and focuses? Like, is your goal to have a well-rounded person, or is it just to have the right test score so you can keep running the engine that you're running? Which really
sickening the way test scores run all of education.
And yeah, and I was gonna say, and for you then, Skittles, because you are literally a music teacher for the DOE. So how does that happen? Like, how does, even being the teacher, like, are you under like a constant like fear of your class getting cut, or are you restricted in the way in which you teach?
I'm lucky that how do I say this? Okay, so being a music teacher is very evident in the students' attitudes and the way you are treated by other teachers, the hierarchy in the school. Especially being like part of the arts, and then the language teachers were kind of treated as the others. In fact, like at one point, literally called the others. Like, wow. So in terms of like how like the treatment, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, you know, you might have. My constant battle is always like, I have students that really do excel at music, and if they continue with me, you know, we can work towards getting them to possibly study music, maybe getting them lessons outside of school, whatever, all that stuff. But I'm not able to cater to those students and foster their talents because I'm constantly being thrown students who just need the credit, who just need to pass. So then I'm faced with certain things. Like there was one time where I was asked to pass a student so that he can go to prom. Because it's a school rule for if they're failing a class, they can't go to prom or some shit like that.
Wow.
So it's literally like down to like silly shit like this. Like you, and that in turn turns to the students being very apathetic towards the arts and very apathetic towards language and very apathetic towards anything that is not math, English, you know, reading and writing.
Yeah.
Like, and then so every day you're coming in, this is something that you love and something that you want to keep practicing every day. And it's literally soul-sucking to try and to do that while you're dealing with such apathetic attitudes in the process.
And it's
luckily, I think I'm a likable person that I kind of get the buy-in. Even if you're really not into music, I kind of try and get you to work hard for me. But it's evident in the students' attitudes and in the treatment amongst your peers.
And it's so frustrating because I've never been a teacher proper, like for the DOE, but like I said, I've worked for nonprofits and after school, and it's like enrichment programming. And I remember the tender age of 17 was the first time I was able to teach a drama class at my old middle school for the after school program. And I went in with such enthusiasm because I didn't have that in that school. That school was lacking arts like heavily, like ridiculously, right? So when they had a program once when I was a kid, and I got to play Santa Claus in like a school play thing because all the other girls, it was a drama class of 5 girls including me, and they wanted, the program slotting was for way more than 5 kids. But you know that was the moment that I was like, oh, I kind of like this thing. So even that, and the program was maybe like a month and a half. And like even just that little taste was enough for me to sink my tooth in and say, hey, I've discovered something. Because before then, I thought I wanted to be mayor of New York City. Like legitimately thought politics was my way and nobody could tell me shit about doing anything but politics. And then I got that morsel. So for me, I said, well, this is what I need to do if I'm going to give back, because I got into LaGuardia High, and I applied for LaGuardia. I didn't even know that school existed. I was the first kid since Al Pacino, because Al Pacino went to my middle school, to get into LaGuardia for drama specifically. So like I was just like, whoa, like when I heard that, I felt a responsibility to bring that back at the age of 17. And got very little support to do so. And by support, I don't mean like the program administrators didn't think the program was a good idea. They just had other priorities.
Yeah, and I say that like, so the treatment thing amongst your peers, like it's never something that's completely direct. Everybody gives you that like, oh, the arts matters, blah, 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 blah. But they're also fucking concerned about their test scores.
Right,
and
right.
Like,
because it's how they get paid.
It's how they get, yeah, point. Like you literally, the test scores determines even your fucking rating as a teacher. Like, because we get graded.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
It's crazy.
But I think Julia's story is a prime example of how the New York City public schools specifically are kind of failing kids in that regard, because you didn't really have the arts opportunities until you got into this special school that not many people get into. So congratulations, but
thank you.
Middle school, but middle schools, high schools, elementary schools in New York, many of them don't even have a general music teacher anymore.
Yeah.
Middle schools, a lot of them still don't have music, an orchestra, a band. Yeah. And then high school, you have to go to a special one. So it's like, it's such an afterthought.
Yeah. And I think another thing to bring up is like, so then you have these schools that aren't getting like it through the DOE. So then they have to go through a vendor and get a nonprofit. That's where you come in.
That's where I come in.
But then, so then like there's certain nonprofits. I don't know if your program does this specifically, but I know other certain nonprofits are like, they'll send the teacher in and you'll do like a program for a year. But the nonprofit's goal is to get the teacher hired at the school that they're teaching at.
That's not.
But the administration won't hire the teacher because they simply do not have the budget for for it. You know.
Yeah, it's really excuse me. It's very troubling to me too. Just the way nonprofits have to function in the school space, where there's all these roadblocks.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. Like when I was, I worked over at Banana Kelly High School, and my program that I had to do was more around like community service and getting the, like, oh, if you get these kids to serve, then it'll empower them to be better people in the world, which, sidebar on that, like, yes, community service for everyone and doing stuff like that is very empowering and important, but there's something a little demeaning to me about having kids in a situation where, like, they'd be like, oh, take them to a soup kitchen or take them to the shelter and do this thing so they can really understand the struggle. And I'm like, do you know 3 of my kids actually currently live in shelters? What am I teaching them about that? You're talking about kids who already live these struggles. Let's try a different approach. I would have loved to have taken that same amount of money, right, and then done something in maybe artistic or maybe not artistic, but something that's extracurricular in a way that is actually opening the doors for them to new ideas, as opposed to just telling them that they owe back into the setting that they're currently living in. You know, and it's testing season, and so, you know, that kid can't go to after school today. They have to stay in class, or they have to go to tutoring. One time when I was working in my old
triggering.
I was in my old, when I was working in my old middle school, I remember that the school scores were so low that there was this other nonprofit that did like test, like enrichment, blah, blah, blah. And so the teachers got paid extra to stay after school to do, and we, like, our attendance was shit. And so our attendance was shit for like 2 months. And then when we're reporting numbers, it's like, are you guys even working with children? Like, what are you doing there? So then the nonprofits sometimes are like, are our resources better allocated in a different school? And then programs like that program no longer exists in that school because they couldn't get attendance numbers to maintain a certain way. And so now it's moved to another school. And like, yes, that other school also needed it, but now you just literally ripped away the only arts programming that existed in a space because of a test score.
And one thing that I've found also with like working with nonprofits or whatever, because we have a couple nonprofits that come into my school too, like trying as the teacher to keep the attendance going, because it's a nonprofit and it's an outside program, I can't say I'm gonna fail you if you don't show up.
Right.
You know, I can't hold something over your head, or like, I don't want to say that as but you know, you do that with kids. You say, listen, you show up, I'm gonna give you extra credit, or I'm gonna do this or whatever. You're giving them incentives. Right. There's no incentives I can offer you other than, this is a great opportunity. Please show up, because this is an opportunity that you wouldn't get if you weren't here right now. And, you know, kids drop out and, I don't really want to go. And then they get their mother on board. Well, she doesn't really want to do it. So
right. So the lack of care, and I think that's another point that I wanted to bring up. The lack of care for people around the students influences the students' behavior. Because I remember same program, I had like 3 boys in the drama class. I could only get 3 because all of them were always playing basketball. And the energy and like teasing they would get because they were doing drama instead of basketball was a lot, to the point that even the coaches would be like, oh, like, what are you doing up there? You know, and I'm like,
I'm smiling because it's like High School Musical.
Literally, yeah. Oh, I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of that. But like, so true. Like, right, the more you demean the arts, like people do not value the arts, especially when they're not artists themselves. Which also leads me to who are the people instructing. So I think it's very important too when you get people into these settings, because the lady who did my drama class was this little old white lady. And like, she was really corny. And quite frankly, I didn't like her very much. I liked the art, but I was so passionate about it that I was able to surpass that. But there were some girls, like mind you, I said 5 girls. It didn't start with 5, right? People could not identify with her in a way that made sense. And so they also lost interest. And then also, like, what are we learning, right? So she didn't come in there with any sort of art or plays that identified with me. It was all white shit. You know, and even I'll even go as far as I love LaGuardia to fucking death. It taught me a lot. It was one of the best experiences of my life. My drama department was not curating anything towards my population, and that's because we had one black guy, okay, and I was one of 3 Latinas in the basement. You know what I mean? There was 2 Latino men, and then I think there was like 4 black girls. So, and it was a department of 60, just so you get a sense of the numbers. But, you know, I always think about Kahim was his name, the one black boy, right? Like, in this department. So I could see where when they're like sort of doing their thing, and theater naturally, even in the mainstream, you know, platform, doesn't make a lot of room to talk about black art or Latin plays and stuff, unless it's the popular thing to do and it's niche. So when you talk about like Irene Fornés, it's like, oh yeah, like, oh, it's like such a niche thing. And it's like, yeah, all of these playwrights, including, even as a playwright myself, I think about that, like, I'm an important voice. And so when I see people who are teaching artists who are in these fancy schools, and I'm like, you're in Washington Heights teaching playwritings, but like, I should be in Washington Heights teaching playwriting because I'm a Dominican playwright and most of your students are Dominican. And the same way you can talk to them about Waiting for Godot, I can talk to them about Waiting for Godot. And so it's so interesting. But coming from the backgrounds that we come from, arts administrations and teachers in these nonprofits do not even get paid enough. It's like, you know, I used to be a nonprofit. I could have very well stayed there. That was not paying the bills. WeWork pays my bills. You know what I mean? Like, that is, so it's interesting because the investment even outside of the schools for these nonprofits is so low that how do we support the unsupported if we're not supported?
Right. There's a really great TED Talk, and I wish I could tell you what it was, that talks about, you know, the buy-in for nonprofits and the way donors specifically want nonprofits to use money, and it's almost all the time they want the money to go toward the programming, which is great. We want your help. We love your help. But a lot of the time, they don't consider that, you know, going into salaries, or especially to executive salaries, as being particularly helpful. However, then you're having brain drain. You're losing a lot of really positive, really smart, really caring people who want to be doing this and are doing it for probably about half the money that they should be earning doing this kind of work. And but the people with the money, that hold the money, don't care. But it, you know, it's so true what you're saying about representation. And I think the particular nonprofit that I work with, we have 3 people on our faculty of 20 at this point who actually went through the organization, graduated, went to college, have at least their undergraduate, if not more. One of them just got her doctorate this year in violin, grew up in East Harlem, went to East Harlem schools, and are now teaching with our organization.
Great.
These are people who care deeply about what they learned. These are people who know what the kids they're teaching are going through, and they know what works and what didn't. I think something that our founder has done well, she is a white woman, but is that she just doesn't give up on anybody. I think that's, if you are a white person or a privileged person going into those kinds of spaces, you have to be willing to work through problems that you might not understand. And, you know, keep the kid who's not showing up as much as you would like. Slow him down if you need to, but keep him and keep working with him, and talk to him at his level. Don't, you know, sit there and baby them or anything like that.
Yeah.
You have talk to them at their level, work with them through the curriculum. Something that I'm also really happy with our organization is that we have a curriculum. So kids go through certain things. And I think you were talking earlier about how some of your kids are apathetic. And I think something that with the organization I'm with that's positive is we start them young. So if they learn right away that this is an exciting thing, it's cool, my friends are doing it too, and they get to take their instrument home with them and be really proud of it from the beginning, it's so important. It's hard to start a middle schooler on an instrument. It's hard to make them decide they want to be a singer or make them decide to like Beethoven or whatever.
It's even worse.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and I think what you said about taking the instrument home is so interesting because there are certain programs where like the kids only have access during the hours of school, and so they can't even explore the love of the art. I mean, I'm lucky that mine was drama and it didn't require, anything that I didn't have at home. But I think about that a lot with musicians. My little brother actually, both my younger siblings went to school for music, but my sister for singing. My little brother plays the clarinet. Right. And so like it wasn't until like late junior year that he was able to like bring the clarinet home. And that was only because he's like preparing for certain concerts and stuff like that. But he would be home like playing video games and stuff like that. And I'm like, but he loved the clarinet. And if he had it in front of him, he would also be playing the clarinet right now. But we can't afford a motherfucking clarinet for him. You know what I mean? So I think about that too with funding. Like you can't even afford to, for every kid to have one of their own sometimes, depending on which program it is.
Yeah, we make sure that our kids, when they start, they don't get to take it home. They have to learn how to take care of it.
Yeah, of course. And that makes
especially
sense.
the violin. The violin scares me. It's very delicate.
It's very delicate. They learn how to take care of it. Then they get to take it home. And something that one of our parents said to me that has always stuck with me is, the sounds in my home are the kids fighting over who gets to play the piano first and things like that, which is not common in any home. It's not common in an East Harlem home. And so for her to, she says, my kids grew up fighting over who got to play first or, whatever. And that's just, I love that.
Yeah. And I think we can all just overall, like people who are interested in that, we need to support the organizations that are doing the work. You know what I mean? Small donations. And maybe it's not monetary. Maybe you are an artist and maybe you can offer up some time to go into a school and do, an intensive or a master class on something.
And let me tell you, that they love that shit. Like
they love it.
Aside from it being like a free period, but also like it being like someone who's out in the field doing exactly what they've been reading and listening to and watching. To have a physical person in the room changes everything.
I love doing like workshops and stuff, like playwriting workshops with students. They get so excited. Also because like as a writer, I don't like to censor, so I'll be like, curses are allowed in your pieces as long as they're constructive and creative, and they love that. But even that, I love them having the act of, I'm going to choose my words carefully in an artistic way. I even love putting them in that sort of space. So I think it's important for people to step up because it's not just about enriching the lives of young people. It's about cementing the fact that this is important, especially in a time where all the funding for these programs on a, like federal level are completely being cut. So if it was there, you know what I mean? Like how deep will we let it go? Are we just going to let the buck stop at us and not have anyone else have access? We have to keep it alive. If no one's going to fund it, then we have to fund it with our own resources that aren't monetary. Thanks that was a really, hearty discussion on that. All right. Now we're going to move into our Damé Lúz.
Guys, I need some loose.
What you need light on Skittles?
All right. When do you know that you're not that into him? Like, how many chances do you give to, like, figure out if you like him or not?
It depends.
For me, I think part of it matters how much time you've already invested. If you have only invested a couple of dates and you're like, I don't want to hang out with him tonight, that's like a warning sign. I feel like, the first couple months, the first year is like that puppy love, disgusting. Part. Like, exciting, not disgusting. We'll go with that part that, if you're not feeling that, why bother? Like, why waste your time? You know what I mean? We're everyone at this table, you know, we're young. But we're not getting younger.
That's right.
And we don't need to waste our time on something that doesn't feel right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then after that, it gets hard because once you've invested time, it's like you can't get that back.
Absolutely.
So do you keep fighting? You know.
Well, because here's like, I guess it's one of those things where it's like, I guess I don't. What am I saying?
You're not sure how much it is.
How many times do you?
How many more dates you owe before?
Yeah, before you make that definitive decision of like, I'm not going to entertain this anymore, because it's not a situation where it's like, I don't want to hang out with this person, but it's more so it's just kind of like there are certain like things I notice in myself that I'm kind of like questioning, am I being shallow or am I being, you know, a bad person for noticing habits?
You're a bad person if you waste their time.
But like, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, if you were hanging out with a person, right? And you have a fine time with them, the couple of times that you hang out with them, like, but I don't know, like,
you're just not that into them already. Even like in the struggle of like when you, not you, Juan, specifically, but when people are like talking about it and they're struggling to articulate, it's almost like an avoidance of the very big elephant in the room. And the truth is, we don't want to feel like assholes. We don't want to be shallow, especially when you're someone who's like supports and loves all people. And then you're in that moment where it's like, fuck, I'm not attracted to this person. And maybe they're a bit non-conventional, or maybe like, you know, they're heavy, or they're not as like conventionally sexy as what you're used to, and then you're just kind of like, fuck, it's coming up. And I think we have to give ourselves a little bit of leeway and understand that we are human and we have been socialized in a way that even if we don't intentionally try to internalize those beliefs, they come through. So we have to take that moment of like, okay, I acknowledge that. Doesn't make me a bad person. I'm acknowledging that this is a thing. Now, with this thing, am I in a moment where I am willing to get over it can I get over this in time? Or am I just going to hold on to this person because I don't want to, you know, accept the fact that I have this belief that's a bit more like mainstream? Or am I going to let that person go so that they can invest their time in someone who doesn't feel that way towards them?
Right.
So I think that's super important too. Don't waste anyone's time.
Don't waste anybody's time.
But also don't nitpick. Right, because sometimes you have to understand what is the content. But to me, so like nitpicking, like if I'm just like me, like I just recently stopped messing around with somebody that I was messing around with for like 4 years on and off. You know what I mean? And so now that I'm like back into the dating mode, I have the problem of nitpicking, but it's based off of comparison. So I'm comparing everybody who I mess around with to the guy.
So how many times?
Honestly,
have you given
here.
Other guys?
I'll be honest. Like I've been called out this week. This week's Mercury's retrograde. So I've had people like hitting me up on some like, yo, what's up? Like, you don't hit me up. Like, what's going on? There's this one guy on Tinder who I matched forever ago, and like we were like texting like heavily for a little bit, and I think I had gone on vacation to like DR, and so like, and I never picked it back up after that, so I still haven't met the person, and they're like, are you alive? Like, what's going on? So sometimes I don't even make it to the first date is what I'm saying. Like, if in the way I'm chatting, and like yesterday I matched someone on Tinder who was cute, and I was like, oh, okay, and then he like complimented my smile, and I was like, oh, thanks. Like, he had a cute smile too, and then he was like, yeah, you can add me on IG if you want, and I was like, oh, you're here for followers? Like, I get it, I respect it. And he was like, nah, you know, it's just Tinder has too many trannies, so I have to check people out before. Exactly. So right, immediate like shut down. And it's always the really cute ones that are really, and it's usually homophobia with me. Like, usually the guys are homophobic, and clearly they feel comfortable being homophobic because they think I'm a straight woman, so like I'm not gay, or like you know, I like him enough, so I don't care what he thinks about gay people. Yes, I do. Yes.
And if there are any ladies who are associated with me and do not check their man on their homophobic comments, please unfriend me. block me. Like,
Right.
fuck out of here.
Right. Like, it's literally, you know, and so obviously, and that's an obvious, like, cutoff. So I wouldn't need to, like, meet someone. But sometimes it is coming from me specifically. And so I'll hang out with a guy once. And then the second time we hang out, then maybe we have sex, right? And the sex may or may not be satisfying, right? And recently, not, you know, it's been hit or miss. It's not always satisfying. So that already for me, like, that's one of the comparisons. I'm like, I just left some really great dick. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like, and so that for me, but I'll continue the conversation because I'm like, all right, you can, like, if I need to just teach him how to eat my pussy so that he does it right the whole time, then, like, maybe he'll be open to that. Let me get to know him a little more and figure out if that's where he's at. If after that investigation I find that it's, even if he was good sexually, I'm not interested, then immediately it's cut off. Once I know it's not just sex, it's quiet. Like, it makes no sense.
So I should have sex.
I don't know.
So, like, have sex with the person and then decide.
No, not necessarily.
It could be part of it.
Yeah, it could be part of it, but, you know.
I don't know. I feel like for me, so I just had Tinder for a week, the first week ever in my life, and I deleted it.
It's whack, right?
I mean, kind of like people come on to you in a certain kind of way, and some people come on heavy, and some people are ridiculous. Like,
some people fetishize you too.
Would you like I had one that his opening line was, "Would you prefer a country house or a beach house?" And I was like, I didn't answer. But my thing is, I think within myself, I realized, like, one, all of these things annoyed me. And then two, I'm probably not ready to date anyone. If any of that, like, hey, hi, ocean, beach house, you're my Tinderella, I'm going to be in love with you. Any of that just annoyed me. Then,
but that's also corny. Like, never rule number 3: never make time for corny motherfuckers.
That's
true. If you're not about it, like, just don't.
Yeah, but just don't force yourself either. Like,
well, at least you got that, and not like, so how deep can you take it down your throat? I got that once, and I was like,
I get that. That's like a hello on Grindr. So
right, I was gonna say that's different in one's world. Like,
it's
dick pic
on
first.
The Grindr world, yeah, it's like it is a handshake, you know.
But then that's another point, is what is your intent anyway? Like, are you with this person because you're looking for a relationship, or are you just with them because you're trying to fuck? Because honestly, if you're just trying to fuck and the fucking is good, I'm not obviously like the guy who called the trans community trannies. Like, I don't even want your dick inside of my body. I don't want that energy, right? But if there's
one,
right. So, but if it's just someone who I'm like, oh, he's corny or he's not that hot, but like he eats really great pussy, or you know what I mean, like he's awesome to hang out with, whatever. Like, then we can have a sexual relationship, and I just won't let it get past the sex, and it'll just be a solo relationship. But if you are looking for somebody that you can grow with and get a beach house with, then don't waste your time. But if you're just trying to fuck, then fuck and see if you like the fuck, and if you don't, then don't. But make sure that the way you're engaging them, you're clear that your intent is just the sex, right? That you're not trying to build something, because what you don't want is to like engage them a lot, and then what they start to think is, oh, we're always fucking and hanging out. He must have feelings for me. Keep it clear.
Yeah, do not leave that unsaid. Friends with benefits, where they try to not talk to each other about it, that never works.
Who you telling? Yeah. Awesome. Well, you got some decisions to make.
Yeah, I got some thinking to do.
All right, Hayley, where can we find you on social media?
My social media is not that interesting, but I am on Instagram, HayleyMo77.
Yes.
I'm on Twitter. I believe it's the same.
Yeah, I think it's the same as well.
I think. I don't have much of a Twitter following, but I feel personally like I'm very interesting on Twitter.
There you go. Follow
the girl.
And then, Facebook me, but I don't accept randos on Facebook.
Yeah, so don't Facebook.
Yeah,
so don't Facebook. You can follow her on Twitter. You can follow her on Instagram.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hayley, for being on here. And thanks, guys, for listening. And until next time, bronche.